This is a perspective post. I just want women to understand how far we have come. Before feminism, we did not have rights. Literally, as women, we were a subjugated second class of citizens. We just were. We belonged to our fathers if we were unmarried. And once we became married, we became property of our husbands to the point where we had to take his name, and that was standard. We couldn't own property. We couldn't own our own money. We couldn't use our names. We couldn't go out without permission. So this is a perspective post. This woman says, in the mid-90s, I worked at a bank and I was tasked with updating all accounts. So we had accounts that were Todd Jones and the wife's name was Mrs. Todd Jones. Women were not allowed to put their names on accounts except to be Mrs. Blank Blank. The accounts were started in the early 80s. When I called these women, some were happy to have their real name on the account, and some had no understanding why that was necessary because that is how they were raised and that's how they were taught. Like, once a woman was married, they were no longer Jane Smith, they were now Mrs. Todd Jones. Basically, you lose yourself once you became married. You were no longer who you were. You were the property of Todd Jones or whoever. Okay, so this one says, someone that actually get it. People act like our grandparents and great-grandparents stayed together because of love. My grandmother recently died at 92. She never had a driver's license. And then Regina says, my mom is 76 and my dad would not allow her to get one. Now it's too late for her because of her eyesight. So this woman, who is an adult or was an adult, she was regulated by her husband. Can you imagine that in 2023? For all the feminists that want to give all rights back to the men, can you imagine wanting to get a driver's license but you can't because a man said no? This woman says, my grandma needed my dad, her only son, to co-sign a loan for her after her husband, my granddad, died. My dad was born in the late 50s, and this would have been in the mid 70s. I remember thinking, what the F, when he explained it to me. We are not so far removed from women that we know getting rights. We're not that far removed. So all of the things that women right now have, we didn't have to fight for because the women, our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers, suffered not being full adults. Women were basically dependent on men. They struggled to survive because they had to wait for the benevolence of men. So keep that in mind when you're acting like women shouldn't have rights or feminism didn't help anyone. Like, comment, share.